Markets will be watching defence stocks this morning as the UK government unveils the full scale of its spending cuts for the armed forces. The big development so far, a scaling back on plans for 2 new aircraft carriers. And one of the carriers may even be sold as soon as it's built. As for the existing fleet, well, the Royal Navy's flagship, HMS Ark Royal, will be scrapped immediately. That's according to people familiar with the cutbacks. Britain's 2 other carriers will be phased out over the next 7 years. Well, UK Prime Minister David Cameron will outline all the details of the defence review today. His government calls the defence budget it inherited a complete mess. We sent our reporter Elliott Gotkine to one of the places any cuts could hit hardest.
It's the world's largest natural deep-water harbour, after Rio and Sydney. A&P Falmouth, which runs the dockyard, specialises in repairing and refitting ships. It's got a £300 million contract with the UK Ministry of Defence.
The Ministry is about a third of our revenue here, so a very important customer to us. We employ 450 people locally, and there's probably another 200 to 300 suppliers based around here working in the yard. So any threat to the Ministry's work is going to be a threat to us.
Some say it's also a threat to Britain's ability to defend itself and project its power overseas.
Faced with the prospect of a 20% cut to his budget, Defence Minister Liam Fox warned of grave consequences if such draconian measures were imposed while Britain remains at war. The Prime Minister and his Chancellor appear to be listening, and the Ministry of Defence now looks set for cuts of around 10%.
It could be even lower. Defence was set to account for almost 6% of the government's near £700 billion budget this financial year, with only education, health and welfare gobbling up more. Lop 10% off that and you're talking savings of close to £4 billion.
We support what the Afghans are doing.
That's got Hillary Clinton worried.
Yeah, that's it, mate.
The US Secretary of State last week warned against defence cuts while Britain remains at war.
The UK is the strongest military in NATO Europe, and therefore it's a source of particular American concern. The Brits are cutting back, and the British have been at pains to emphasise that their reductions will not affect current capabilities in Afghanistan.
Part of the problem is waste, spending billions on the wrong equipment, which often goes way over budget and is delivered years behind schedule.
The defence budget is a complete mess. The entire budget of the country is a complete mess. And it's right that we should get the economy right, because one of the strongest weapons a country has is a strong economy.
There will be casualties. BAE Systems, launching its newest destroyer last week, gets almost a fifth of its revenue from the UK. Thousands of defence jobs, including troops, could go. For A&P Falmouth, it may be a good opportunity to get more private sector business on board. Elliott Gotkine, Bloomberg in southwest England.
So what does the defence review mean for stocks? Well, according to people familiar with today's announcement, both of the Royal Navy's new aircraft carriers are still being built, a boost for the contractors on the near £5 billion deal, BAE Systems, Babcock International and French firm Thales. Now, since Cameron's coalition government formed in May, BAE Systems stock has risen just over 8%. The news is less encouraging for aircraft makers, as you'd expect. One ship will now carry only a cheaper version of Lockheed Martin's F-35 Joint Strike Fighter. The other carrier will have no planes at all, just helicopters. Lockheed's shares have already been hit by talk of US cutbacks. They've fallen more than 15% since early May. Well, the UK is also saving money on its nuclear deterrent. It'll take no action for another 5 years, keeping its ageing fleet of Trident submarines. Of course, by then, there'll have been another general election, and the new government may have the majority they need to get them replaced. Babcock International services those subs. Babcock shares fell 16% over the course of the summer, but they've since erased that loss.